A new centrist political party has formed in Canada. Arlene Hoffert has more on the Canadian Future Party with a founding member from Lloydminster.
I'm joined here today with Daryl Patton of the Canadian Future Party. So Daryl, why don't you just tell me, for those who don't know, what the Canadian Future Party is and what they support?
Well, we're growing. We're very new. I don't even think we've been official for a full 7 months yet, but we are a truly centrist party. The founding members, including myself, we found that there's an appetite in Canada for a purely centrist party. Too many people are leaning too far left or too far right, and it's become visible in governance. And for myself, I no longer felt like I had a party to I don't know what we would say, have faith in. So during the early months of 2022, I just happened to see an article or a tweet about centrist Canadians and disgruntled center to right conservatives that were no longer happy with where the party was going after Pierre was made the new leader. Some of the things that they were saying and doing. I was a voting member of the Conservative Party. I mean, it's one of those things where it's easy to do there. And I just could no longer stand with what the party was standing for. So ever so slowly, we got enough people that it was decided to have a larger conversation. The party or the focus group became called Centrist Canadians instead of Conservatives, because we found that there was NDP, there was Liberals, there was provincial, there was federal politicians and members that worked in government that all felt the same way. It's like if you've read in the news, the pollsters polled, and 40% of Canadians feel like they do not have a political home anymore. The old adage of plugging your nose and marking an X is quite visible when you finally can get people to admit that that's what they do. Sadly, that's what I did in the last federal election. I wasn't overly pleased. I had voted 3 times in leadership races, and the person that I wanted never got in. So, yeah, I mean, I don't speak for everybody, but a lot of the people I have spoken to, and even here in the prairies, it's more prevalent than you think.
So there could be an election at any time now. What's the Canadian Future Party's plans for this upcoming election?
Well, I mean, last night we just had our last our Zoom conference with our leader, and anybody can actually see any of the Zoom conferences we have. They're all available on YouTube under the party's name. Dominic says, well, of course we would hope to win seats. That's the whole point of being an election. We would prefer an October election. At least that way we'd be a year old. We'd be a little bit more polished. Me, for instance, I've never had a second of political in my entire life. I mean, my father had 40 years of civic politics, but Dominic, for myself and everybody else, we're kind of hoping that Dominic at least gets in, hit the 2% threshold so that, we become a voice within the House of Commons. Might not have a seat, but if we get 2%, then we become part of the procedure. We can be in discussions on television, stuff like that. Until you hit that bar, it's difficult. So me personally, I just want to be able to become a candidate. I want to be able to, kind of shake things up in the prairies of Canada. I want people to know that, there's room for more parties in this country. There is, because as we get bigger and we have more people, I like that model of governance better, where people have more choice. Can you imagine go to a car lot and you got 2 choices? Oh, you get a car, you get a truck. Oh, one's white, one's black. No, I I don't like that kind of governance. So I mean, yeah, we want to try and to win a few seats and surprise a few people. I mean, Dominic always says, it sure be great to get a mandate, but if not in this election, hopefully the next.
All right, and what is the message that you want to leave voters with?
Well, absolutely. So I would, if I was to become a candidate, I would represent Lloydminster Battleford on the Saskatchewan side. So I want young people to realize that you don't have to be idle in politics. If you don't like the one side, I don't want to I don't want to upset people, and you're not sure about joining what everybody in Ontario votes for. There are alternatives. Go to our website. It's the CanadianFutureParty.ca. Look at our framework that we have and realize that you don't have to vote the ways that you've always heard of people voting in the past. Canada is ripe for new choices, and that time is now. And not just because of politics in general, but because of the world scope that we're in. We have ideas for our platform that now all the other parties are just jumping on, because they realize, oh, we have to change this. Well, it was always in our portfolio, or whatever you want to call it. We were voting on things in Ottawa that now all of a sudden are important to the other parties. So please consider an alternative. That's all I ask. I don't expect to possibly win. I'm up against some pretty big shoes, but as a regular Joe, I'm a fourth generation bar colonist. I'm a fourth generation Ukrainian immigrant by heritage. A lot of us have just done things for generations because that was what you do. Take the time, read, research, follow us on Twitter or X, and seriously think about the alternatives. That's all I can ask. It's converted our family. We're now a Canadian Future Party household, and we were all conservatives at one point. So that's got to tell you something.
Those are all the questions I have for you today, Daryl. Thanks a lot for joining me.